This lesson explores if friction is good or bad and how do we increase or decrease it to suit our needs better. It seems that almost everything we do, it has an element of friction. From walking, running, cycling, driving, pulling, pushing, picking up things to putting them down. Do you think you could do all this if there was no friction? What would happen if you change the amount of friction in various things? Come, let's explore all these things and have some more fun in the name of science. Let's look at some advantages of friction using something that you will definitely come across in the classroom. When you write with a pencil or a ball pen, or if the teacher is writing on the board with a chalk, all these things are possible because of friction. As we saw in the previous episode, the surfaces of all things, even if they look smooth, are actually rough, and your pencil or chalk is rubbing off and leaving a trail of particles. And that's why pencils and chalks keep becoming shorter till they disappear. Let's see what happens if we change the surface of the paper in the case of the pencil. Here I will take a soft but thick lead pencil. This is an 8B pencil. B stands for black, and as the number goes up, the lead is thicker and the softness is more. What you use in school is HB pencils, and they are optimum in hardness and they are not very thick. And by the way, the paper sizes also have standard sizes, and this one is 29.7 centimeters by 21 centimeter, and this size is called A4. And A3 is double of A4, while A5 is half of A4. And there are many more sizes, but this much information is good enough for now. Now let's make a line on 3 different surfaces of paper. One is a butter paper, one is a regular paper that you write on, and one is a handmade sheet from a drawing book. All have different levels of smoothness. Let's make a line on all these sheets in one go so that the pressure is same. Let me show you how I loaded the camera on the pencil itself to get a perfect shot. So when we walk or run, we need friction to hold our foot in place, otherwise we will slip. What do you think a banana peel does if we step on it? It reduces friction and our foot slips on it. How does it reduce friction? The peel is soft but thick, and its layers keep sliding on the ground like ball bearings as it slips away. In fact, most of the layers of the skin get left behind on the ground after it has done the job of making you fall. A car moves forward because of friction, stops because of friction, and manages to turn because of friction. But as we saw in the last video, a few people can turn the car successfully even by deliberately reducing friction. But then that's different. The brakes of cycles, bikes, cars, etc. are all designed in a way that they add a lot of pressure on the moving wheel. And as you learned in the previous lesson, to increase friction, one can increase the force with which the two surfaces are pressed together. In fact, the brakes always act from both sides of the wheel or the disc so that this huge pressure applied by the brake is balanced from both sides. Here we will take 2 nails. One is a rough nail and the other one is clean and it's coated with grease. Now we'll hammer both of them into a piece of wood, and you can see there are small wires around them to attach the hooks onto the spring balance. Now let's use the spring balance to see how much force is required to pull it out. The rough nail came out with 9.6 kgs, while the grease one required just around 1 kg's worth of force, hence proving a point. Another example of friction is when someone lights a match. See, if you try to light it on the smooth surface, there is no friction, so it's impossible. But one strike on the rough surface and the match lights up. Even a saw cuts wood or metal using extreme friction. Look at the teeth of this pocket saw. It is designed to cut wood cleanly, as well as metals like aluminium. What would happen to a moving car if there was no friction? The answer is it would never manage to start moving in the first place. And if it was already moving when the friction disappeared, then it would never stop, even if it ran out of fuel or if it ran out of battery if it was an electric car. So friction is both good and bad. Good because without it you couldn't start moving, and bad because if it wasn't there, you could move for free and never need to stop. Let's look at some disadvantages of friction. The best examples are the soles of your shoes. You would never have to buy new ones if there wasn't any friction. The same thing happens to the rubber of the tires of vehicles, and that's surely a disadvantage because firstly they become dangerous once they become bald, which means the treads have totally gone, and then they are expensive to replace. But the worst is that the world is filling up with thrown away tires. There are more than 1 billion tires thrown away in the world every year. We saw that friction in brakes helps us to stop the vehicle, but the same friction also wears out the brakes, and they too need to be replaced regularly. Friction wears out even hard surfaces like stone. You can see that on the steps of old monuments and even some not so old buildings. Friction wears out machine and engine parts. And for example, in the engine of a car, one of the parts that moves would be something like this. But this is an old one. And this is how it looked when it went into the engine. And what caused all this worn out state is friction. Friction causes heat, and that you can try immediately by rubbing your hands hard against each other. At the start, the temperature of my hand was 33 degrees Celsius. And then within 10 seconds of rubbing, it became 38 degrees. The roughness of the skin and the pressure of rubbing the hands increases friction and therefore the temperature. This time let's take the temperature of the disc of the front brakes of the scooter. It's 36 degrees. Anyway, I'm fast forwarding the scooter video to save time. In fact, in Formula 1 racing, many times the disc brakes would be glowing red because they get so hot that they sometimes burn out. And now after just 4 or 5 instances of applying the brakes, the temperature has increased to 42 degrees. And let's do the same thing for the engine. First, let's see the temperature of the cold engine. And then we start the car. Once again, the video is fast forwarded to save time. And we've kept the engine running for just about 3 minutes. And now you can see the temperature rising. In this case, I've just driven the car to the office after a 10-minute drive. And you can see the temperature is much higher, at more than 80 degrees. The same thing happens with any machine, mixer, grinder. The initial temperature is about 30 degrees. This part is attached to the main shaft of the motor, so it gets heated by it. I kept it on for about 1 minute. And then the temperature reached 35 degrees. You already know that friction slows down motion. You saw it in the earlier episodes as well with the rolling ball and the rolling pen. So the same thing it does to the parts of any machine or any engine. And that's why we are always trying to reduce friction. But then there are times when we want to increase friction. Increasing friction. Friction can be increased by adding grooves into the surfaces, like the grooves and patterns in the shoes that are different for different purposes. It can be increased by adding treads as there are in tires. The treads are different for regular roads and different for any other surfaces. Athletes use spikes, and that adds a lot of friction for the sprinter because they dig into the ground for maximum friction. You can increase friction by adding weight or pressure, like I did when I added the weight on the sliding book in the last episode. Gymnasts also put chalk powder to increase friction and absorb the sweat as well so that they don't slip. But one of the best ways is in using a combination of the right material and shape. In fact, a simple but brilliant example is the belt that moves a pulley wheel. The material of the belt is such that it is rough for gripping the metal. This is the cut belt to show the section to see how it sits on the pulley wheel. And the V-shape adds to the surface area that's in contact to increase the friction. Plus, the design of the V-shape of the belt is a genius idea, because as the belt gets more load, it pulls deeper into the wheel, and that increases the pressure and therefore the friction. Now I will do a series of interesting experiments, and it shows how friction changes with different surfaces. We'll use 3 tracks of different surfaces. A is rough and soft, B is rough and hard, C is smooth and hard. We'll put identical weights over these tracks and we'll keep changing the surface below these boxes to see how friction changes when different surfaces meet each other. First, we'll start with plain rubber sheets under the boxes. This is how they are stuck so that we can change them to put the next type after each set of trials. We'll pull with a spring balance and note the force. Currently it's set to pounds and not kgs, otherwise the number was always below 1 kg and that was not fun. 1 kg is 2.2 pounds. Here the box moves at a reading of 1.4 pounds on A. Now it moves at a reading of 3 pounds on B. Here the reading is 1.2 pounds on C. Now we'll use the surface with wide grooves like in shoes. On A, the box moves at a reading of 1.8 pounds. On B, the reading is 2.9 pounds. On C, the reading is 1.7 pounds. Now let's use the surface with a tread like in tires. On A, the reading is 2 pounds. On B, the reading is 2.8 pounds. On C, the reading is 1.7 pounds. Now we'll use a surface with thin and sharper grooves. On A, the reading is 2.3 pounds. On B, the reading is 3 pounds. On C, the reading is 1.9 pounds. Now we'll use the surface with spikes using thumb pins and we'll reverse the order. On C the reading is 0.9 pounds. On B it is 3 pounds. On A it is 3.5 to 4.5 pounds. Before we move on, let's try one more thing. Here we are using the first option of plain rubber under the box and it still moves at 1.4 pounds on C. Now let's add some carom powder to the surface. Now the box moves at a reading of just around 0.5 pounds. Methods of reducing friction. In some situations, however, friction is undesirable and we would want to reduce it. One way to reduce friction is to make the surface as smooth as possible so that the surfaces of the object have lesser possibilities of interlocking with each other at the microscopic level. The other way to reduce friction is to add something between the two surfaces that will not allow the locking to happen between the two surfaces. That's why we sprinkle powder on a carom board, and you saw that in the lesson for force and how it makes a difference. This will also work with regular talcum powder, but there are special powders for carom that one uses. The most used material to reduce friction is oil. When an oily substance is used to reduce friction, it's also called a lubricant. The other day I saw a big fishing boat that was being brought onto land. These boats are very heavy and you can see the number of people required to push them. But they use science. They use a lubricant on the wooden logs to slide the boat on. Without the logs, they would not even manage to move the boat an inch on the sand. And without the lubricant, they would require many more people to push it. The lubricant goes between the moving or sliding parts and doesn't let the locking of the surfaces to happen. And that's what oil does inside an engine as well. You must have seen that your car or bike has to go for servicing regularly. And one of the most important things that they do is replace this oil so that all this worn out metal dust gets out of the engine with the oil. And it is replaced with new oil. See the difference here between the oil that came out of the engine and the new oil. The one that came out of the engine is full of fine metal dust that is from the worn out engine. One simple thing you can do with oil is to put a drop of it on any door hinge that is making a creaking sound. Soon the oil will go between the moving parts and stop the sound. To reduce friction, one of the best results comes with air. Things like hovercraft blow air under themselves so that they are floating on an air cushion. This reduces the friction greatly, and once it's floating, even a human could push it in any direction. You can make this simple hovercraft. The DIY project can be seen in the link in the description below. Wheels are used a lot to reduce friction. In cars, in suitcases, chairs, trolleys, trains, all around us are wheels of some sort. In fact, the wheel is said to be one of the greatest inventions of mankind. And to show you how much difference it makes, here's the big box and a bodybuilder once again. In fact, in this one experiment, you will see once again static, sliding and then the ease of rolling friction. When he starts pulling the box, the force reaches more than 60 kgs worth to overcome the static friction. And then it settles down to around 45 kgs worth to overcome the sliding friction. Now let's bring some rolling friction into action by using 3 pipes. 3 is the minimum number of pipes you need for this. The Egyptians moved their heavy rocks using this technique when they made the pyramids. You can see that the rolling friction has brought the force required to just about 5 kgs worth on the spring balance. And after seeing this experiment, I'm sure you will agree that it's the best way. Since the rolling friction is smaller than sliding friction as we saw, sliding friction is replaced in most machines by introducing ball bearings. Once again, almost all parts in any machine or engine, wherever constant rotation is required, ball bearings are used. The DIY project that we do later in the lesson will show how much difference the balls in the ball bearings make to reduce friction. One thing is for sure, no matter how much we try, we cannot create zero friction on Earth. Friction can never be entirely eliminated. No surface is perfectly smooth and no material has zero friction, including water and air. But that we'll see in the next lesson. But for now, let's continue and watch some more experiments. Here are 2 people. One is a bodybuilder and the other one is a young boy. Now both will participate in a game of tug of war. Let's use our knowledge of friction and show how much difference it can make. So before they start, we'll change the situation a bit. All we did was add some grease to the board so that the bodybuilder's feet have very little friction. In fact, he was finding it very hard to even remain standing, forget trying to pull the boy. On your marks, get set, go! There, who won? Science won. Now let's do a quick recap on what we learned in this lesson and then we'll move on to the DIY of the lesson. Advantages of friction. It enables us to walk, run, jog. It enables a car to move, turn or stop. It enables us to apply brakes. It enables us to write on paper or blackboard, to pick up or hold things or pull things. Nails remain stuck because of friction. A matchstick lights up because of friction. It enables us to cut wood with a saw. It enables us to cut metal with a metal cutter. Disadvantages of friction: it wears out shoes, slippers, etc. It wears out tires. It wears out machine parts that move or rotate. It wears out brake parts, clutch parts, or anything that works with high pressure between surfaces. It wears out even materials like stone and concrete in buildings if thousands of people are using it. It produces heat, and that can also lead to damage of parts. It reduces efficiency of machines as some power is lost overcoming friction. It constantly slows down motion. Methods of increasing friction: grooves and patterns increase friction in shoes. In tires, the treads increase friction. Sprinters use spikes and footballers use studs to increase friction on soft ground. Gymnasts and weightlifters put chalk powder to increase friction and reduce sweat. Certain materials are designed to increase friction. Certain shapes can increase friction as well. Methods of reducing friction: making the surface smooth by polishing can reduce friction. It can be reduced by applying lubricants like oil or grease to the surfaces that are in contact. It can be reduced by using wheels to move objects. It can be reduced by using ball bearings between any moving parts of a machine. Here's one look at all of these. On our channel, we have many DIY projects on this topic of friction, and their links can be found in the description below. For the DIY we will do now is a simple one that shows how ball bearings can make a difference in rolling friction. First, this is what we need to make, and these are the parts for the structure. All are PVC plumbing materials. We need one pipe of 50 centimeters, 3 pipes of 30 centimeters, and 2 pipes of 24.5 centimeters. These pipes are just 3 centimeters in diameter. We need 3 T-joints, 1 L-joint, and 2 end caps. Now I'll assemble it without any cuts in the video, but in fast motion. This way you can see every step. The actual tool required to hammer materials like PVC is called a mallet, and it's made of wood. And sometimes it also has a plastic head so that the PVC will not get damaged. But if you're careful, then a regular hammer is good enough, like I'm using. PVC pipes are an excellent material to make things because then you get all the joints that you might need. And the best part is that you might not have to use glue even. And that means you can reuse the parts to make something else later on. There, the structure is ready. Now we have to put a cycle rear sprocket on the pipe. This is why we used a pipe of 3 cm diameter. But as you can see, it's still a bit loose. But you can tighten it by putting a layer of paper tape over it. You can see I did that, but it's still loose. So I'll put another round of tape on it. And now the inside ring of the sprocket seems tight enough. We need 1 meter long strong thread and about 60 cm long bicycle chain. First, let's work on the thread. We have to make a loop on the thread, and the loop has to be a wide one so that it can go around the pipe. Now put the chain on the sprocket so that it's equal on both sides and it balances. Take the open end of the thread and put it through the hole, and take the other end of the thread with the loop and put it around the leg of the structure. Add the bowl for weighing to the other end of the chain. Bring the bowl down till the point it's close to the ground, and then tie the open end of the thread to the chain. This will limit motion of the chain, otherwise it will keep falling off the sprocket. It should also be free to fall down on the side of the weight bowl, but it should lock if it's rotated towards the thread. Now balance the chain once again, along with the bowl hanging at the top point. Now put a marker there. This way we'll also know where to start the experiment from. Here you can see the full setup from the thread to the chain to the sprocket and the bowl. And then we need some small weights or small objects to check the force of friction. Our setup is ready. Let's start with the experiment. I'm putting a 1 gram weight on the finely balanced system. And as you can see, that was enough to rotate the sprocket. The friction is that little with ball bearings. Now we will remove the sprocket, open it up. You will notice that everything in a sprocket opens clockwise and tightens anti-clockwise. This is called reverse threading. And this is opposite to the way you tighten anything else, including nuts and bolts. Inside sprocket, there is a ratchet system. Don't worry about the word. It just makes the sprocket lock in one direction and it's free in the other direction. The small flag-like parts that fell out with the springs were part of that. We don't need it now. Now assemble the sprocket and put it back in place. Now we will have sliding friction in action because we've removed the ball bearings. Let's see if it increases the friction. Yes, it increased it to about 25 grams worth compared to 1 gram that was earlier. Now let's open it up again and put anything that's made of rubber. I had a rubber piece from which I cut these thin strips. You could also use rubber bands. Put the rubber on both sides of the sprocket, tighten it again, and let's try once more. Remember, the rubber here is increasing friction because of the nature of the material as well as the pressure by the side rings of the sprocket when we tighten them. All our small weights could not bring it down, and eventually it took 325 grams to bring it down. So you'll see that friction increased by more than 325 times as compared to the friction with ball bearings. That's why the world uses ball bearings for almost everything that's rotating. Things required for the DIY project: PVC plumbing items listed during the experiment, hammer or mallet, rear sprocket of a cycle, paper tape, thin strong thread, bicycle chain, a bowl for weights, weights in a range of 1 to 500 grams, small dot shaped sticker or a bindi, scissors, pliers, rubber strips or rubber band. That's all in this lesson. Hope you're enjoying these lessons as much as I'm enjoying making them. Our next lesson is on fluid friction. See you there.